Welcome! I'm Jade of Jaded Reader, and today I'm going to be going over my 21 most anticipated reads for 2021. This is just the first half of 2021, so this will be from January to June, and there are 21 releases. This was actually hard to narrow down, but I did my best and I want to try and get through them. Just remember, I haven't read any of these books yet, so they are my anticipated releases, not reviews of the books. I am just looking forward to reading and reviewing them. So let's go ahead and get started. I will not be going in order of age or genre, but instead by release date, and I will go ahead and put timestamps for those release dates in the description box so that you can jump month to month if you so please. First up, coming out January 19th is We Free the Stars. This is the sequel to We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faizal, and I am so looking forward to the sequel to this book. I talked about the first book in a video talking about slow beginnings, as We Hunt the Flame did have a slow to warm start, but once it got going, it got really good. This follows our main character in a mystical world called Arauia, and she is trying to bring magic back to her world and goes to a mysterious island alongside an assassin in order to do that. There is a nice and spicy romance, as well as a lot of action and really fun moments. I am really interested in the world and getting to know the characters better, and again, that comes out January 19th. After that is the third installment of a series I have talked about several times on my channel, and that is A Vow So Bold and Deadly, which is the third in the Cursebreaker series. The first being A Curse So Dark and Lonely, and the second being A Heart So Fierce and Broken, both by Bridget Kemmerer. I am really excited to continue the series. It started out as a Beauty and the Beast retelling, definitely the best I had ever personally read, and it really just went off from there in its own world. I don't want to talk too much about what the third one is about because it has spoilers for the first and second, but in the first book we follow a character named Harper who is from the mortal world and is thrust into a mystical realm, and she lives at the castle with a cursed prince named Ren. In the sequel book, we are following a whole new set of characters, one of them being Liamara. Liamara is a girl who is from a rival kingdom of Ren's, and her kingdom is known for being both ruthless and at war. There is a lot that goes into this second one, and I really enjoyed the additional perspectives, and I did get to read a sampler of A Vow So Bold and Deadly, and it looks like we're getting all of the perspectives from these books, so I'm all the more anticipating it. It sounds amazing. Finally, in January is not a sequel release, but instead a debut, and that is Wings of Ebony by J.L. This follows a girl named Rue who is growing up in a somewhat urban setting, and she is both half god and half mortal. After her mother is shot and killed, she is taken away to an island and forced away from her sister, where gods dwell, and she is not allowed to leave the island, though once her sister is put in danger, she goes ahead and journeys back. I don't know much more else. I absolutely love the cover. It is stunning. I'm always a fan of a good cover. You will find most, if not all, of the covers on this list happen to be gorgeous, and Wings of Ebony comes out at the end of January on the 28th. I actually have 3 books coming out on February 9th. The first is The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. I actually already thought it was out, and when I went to go purchase it, I realized it's not coming out until February of 2021. So I was incredibly disappointed, but also highly anticipating. The Gilded Ones, which follows a girl named Decca, growing up in a small village where she has always been an outcast, but in some sort of blood ceremony where her blood is revealed, hopefully to be red, it runs gold, and she is given the opportunity to leave the village and join an army of militarized girls who also share her same golden blood. I don't know much more about it than that, but it seemed really intriguing, has a stunning cover, and I've just seen it everywhere. It's definitely been on my mind for some time, and after being denied it, I am very excited to get it. The next book is an adult fantasy novel. It is also based off Norse mythology, and that is The Witch's Heart by by Genevieve Gordacek. I think I'm remembering that name right. I apologize if I got it wrong. The witch's heart follows a woman who falls in love with a god, and it turns out to be the trickster Loki. When she ends up bearing several of his children, it is more about her life and what she ends up fighting for. And honestly, this came to my attention after it being said that this was for fans of Circe. Circe is one of my all-time favorite books by Madeline Miller. I haven't read another thing really like it, so I'm really hoping that that is what this is and that it might be a new favorite for the shelf. Finally, on the 9th, we have Game Changer. This is by Neil Shusterman, who wrote one of my all-time favorite series, the Arc of the Scythe series. I absolutely loved his dystopian take on our society, and this seems very much so in that same vein of looking at our society, all of our differences, and analyzing and exploring the different ways that that could go in a dystopian or futuristic setting. I don't know much more about it, and I honestly don't need to in order to pick up a Neil Shusterman book, but that is my last one coming out on the 9th. Then lastly for February, coming out on the 16th, we have A Court of Silver Flames. This is by Sarah J. Maas and is part of the very well-known Court of Thorns and Roses. I was not expecting to be anticipating this one at the beginning of a readathon put on by Madison from Princess of Paperback and Katie from Katie's Book Nook, but they have convinced me by having me read the whole series, and I've had lots of fun buddy reading with Sarah from novel Sarah-ndipity. I actually plan on reading A Court of Frost and Starlight this weekend. We might be doing a live buddy read. I'm not entirely sure yet, but I'm very much so anticipating the next in the series. I won't give much background information on this except for that it is a new adult fantasy novel set in a fae world. There's a lot to explore, and I'll go ahead and link the live shows that both Madison and Katie have put on down below, because you can pretty much get all of my thoughts I've ever had about the series in those live shows. But again, that is coming out on the 16th, and I am admittedly anticipating it. Heading into March. March is my largest month for anticipated reads. I guess it makes sense because you have spring break and you'll have plenty of reading time. I'm really excited for all of these releases. The very first day of March, March 1st, I have a middle grade called Alessia of Atlantis by Natalie Lane. And this is a middle grade following a girl who has a lot of trouble in school and at some point is attacked by a giant frog, where she is pulled into the city of Atlantis, where she finds out her long lost father is from. While trying to figure out the mystery of her father, she also enrolls into an Atlantis school, which I thought was a super cute name. It's Octopus's Garden. I love the Beatles reference. I think that this book sounds like a lot of fun, and I've been really wanting to get back into more middle grade. This seemed like a fabulous start, and I'm hoping that I can read this sooner than its release date, as I have been in contact with the author and may be receiving a physical arc. Unfortunately, it's contingent on whether or not it can get to me before I get to Japan, but either way, I'm really looking forward to it, and it sounds super fun and super cute, as well as having a nautical mermaid theme, which I think is really fun and I don't read enough of, but every time I read it, I enjoy it, so I'm looking forward to it. After that is Sweet and Bitter Magic by Adrienne Tooley, and this comes out on March 9th. And this is described as perfect for fans of Girls of Paper and Fire, which I am a huge fan of, as well as saying it's a witch cursed to never love, meeting a girl hiding her own dangerous magic, and the two strike a dangerous bargain to save their queendom. They strike up some sort of bargain having to do with love, and I am sensing sapphic undertones. I'm really hoping that's the case, but hopefully I find out around March 9th, as that's again when this book comes out. Then nearing the end of March on the 23rd, we have an Aiden Thomas book. If you do not know who Aiden Thomas is, he wrote The Cemetery Boys. I have not gotten to read The Cemetery Boys yet, but every trusted reviewer that I watch who has read it absolutely loves it. It's a new favorite of theirs. I cannot wait to read it, but he has a new book coming out and it seems so up my alley that I just can't wait to get my hands on it, and that is Lost in the Neverwoods. So this is a Peter Pan retelling, and I love Peter Pan retellings specifically because I did not do not like the original classic Peter Pan while loving the concept and whimsy of it. In actuality, when I read the classic Peter Pan, I hated it. All of the remakes, retellings, reimaginings, and looks into the imagination that goes into it is something I'm super into, so I'm very excited for it. And again, that's coming out on March 23rd. Also coming out on the 23rd is the adult novel Unbroken by C.L. Clarke. I have been looking at this cover for a very long time. This adult fantasy novel follows two characters, one who is a soldier and a warrior who has always been entrenched in war and goes back home to fight off a rebellion, and the other character is trying to get her uncle off of the throne. Obviously, these two different missions clash, one to stop a rebellion, the other to start it, and it just sounds really epic and awesome. It kind of gives me some Rage of Dragons feels, which is probably my favorite book of all time, so I'm just holding out hope that there's something that can quell my need for fire and death. I don't know exactly what needs I'm trying to quell, but hopefully Unbroken can quell them. On the 30th is a book I have been waiting for. I didn't even realize how long it had been until I finally saw the cover for it, which looks slightly edible. I'm not sure if I would eat it, but it looks edible, and that is Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo. This is the second in Nikolai's books, which is a spin-off of the Grisha trilogy. The Grishaverse is a very wide and expansive world, and unfortunately, I would say you do need to read the books in order to get to this one. So I don't want to give anything away because really I can't even say the other major perspective in this book. I can just say I'm very much so looking forward to it. The first book, King of Scars, was really fun for me and had characters from both the Grisha trilogy and Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. I've really enjoyed those worlds finally colliding, and I am expecting really good things from Rule of Wolves. I hope that my expectations are met. The next book is actually pretty different from my typical read, but it pulled on just about every single one of my heartstrings. So I have the middle grade book, Breathing Underwater. This is by Sarah Allen, and it is a book about sisterhood and loving and caring for one another. Two sisters are going on a road trip back to look at an old time capsule, and one is really struggling with depression. So the older sister is trying to be supportive of the younger sister and creates a road trip type scavenger hunt filled with pirates, danger, fun, excitement, and ultimately it just sounds really lovely as well as pretty heart-wrenching. I myself have dealt with depression. I also know what it is to be an older sister and to really, really passionately care about your younger sibling and just want them to be okay. And I just feel like this is going to attach itself to my soul, and I'm very much so looking forward to it. And it is coming out at the very end of March on the 31st. Then to start off our April reading, we have Light of the Midnight Stars, and this is by Rana Rosner. Rana Rosner wrote a fantastic book on sisterhood with Sisters of the Winter Wood. I read this about 2 years ago and I absolutely loved it. It was perfect for winter, which I believe this book might very well be too, and it had sisterhood, which is always one of my favorite themes in a book because I really enjoyed Sisters of the Winter Wood and it was just a fantastic one-off story. I'm really hoping that I feel the same way about this book, which is also a combination of fantasy and Jewish folklore taking place in a Hungarian wilderness. It has witchcraft, magic, mystery, and family ties. I don't know very much about the plot, but I think that it'll be just fine because so far Rana Rosner has been a very trusted author and I look forward to her sophomore novel. Then on the 16th, we have a very highly anticipated read that also has one of the best covers I think on this list, and that is by Sianen Smart, author of Witches Steeped in Gold. Oh wow, I don't know anything about this book. I know that it has two mutual rivals who are fighting for a common cause, which is one of my favorite tropes, and I don't come across it very often. These two rivals happen to be witches, and they are trying to take down an enemy. This is also a Jamaican-inspired fantasy, which I have not read as many Jamaican-inspired fantasies as I would like, so I am super stoked for this one. I have not been able to tell if this next one is a sci-fi or a dystopian or post-apocalyptic, but it does sound really amazing, and this cover is again, I'm a sucker. What can I say? That is Dustborn by Erin Bowman. Dustborn follows a girl who's growing up in a desert that has storms and solar flares. It's a really rough world to live in, and when her village is attacked, she ends up teaming up with a old friend who has been missing for several years. Although she doesn't feel that she's entirely able to trust him, she doesn't have much of a choice, and either she is seeking vengeance or seeking answers on why her village was attacked and why they might have been trying to attack specifically her. Dustborn comes out on April 20th, and while I thought it was a debut novel, Erin Bowman actually has quite a few different books, so if this is a known author to you, let me know if you've read her books in the past and what you thought of them, because I'm very hopeful of this book, but I'm not familiar with the author at all, so I'd love to hear your experiences. Then moving on to some Greek mythology, I have Ariadne, which is a retelling of Theseus and the Minotaur from Ariadne's perspective. I'm really looking forward to this one, also hailed to be for those fans of Circe, as well as the Song of Achilles. I don't feel like you could really go wrong with this one. It's a really interesting story from a perspective I have yet to hear. I don't know much more except for that it's a retelling, but I am fairly familiar with a lot of Greek mythology, so I'm kind of hoping to go in fresh and really enjoy it. And Ariadne is the last of my April releases, coming out on the 29th. May and June are much slimmer months as far as new releases. I only have 2 each for that, so I would love recommendations if you have some coming out towards the middle of the year. First up in May, we have Sons of Storm by Sui Davis Nkumbala. I love this cover. I also really love the premise. The plot, as far as I know, is about a young scholar who is trapped in the elite society that he is completely tired of. He also knows that the society is suppressing a lot of secrets, and after meeting a mysterious skin-changing warrior, our main character finds out that this world has a lot more hidden histories than he realized, as well as some hidden magics. That is plenty for me. I'm getting Strange the Dreamer vibes, maybe because we have like a scholar, maybe a possible assistant librarian type character, and I love hidden worlds and hidden depths to worlds. I like when there's extra layers to my world that I can slowly unwind, so I'm very much looking forward to it. It comes out on the 11th, and again, damn, that cover. I have probably my most anticipated release, and that is Mr. Impossible by Maggie Stiefvater. This is the second in the Dreamer series, the first being Call Down the Hawk by Maggie Stiefvater. I absolutely loved this book. I thought it was a great spin-off to the Raven Cycle series, though I will say I'm fairly partial as this series follows Ronan Lynch, my favorite character from the Raven Cycle series. Mr. Impossible is a continuation of that story, and I don't want to give anything away because there's spoilers for 2 of my favorite series if I talk about it. So I'll just say Call Down the Hawk was fantastic, left off on a cliffhanger. There's swords, there's magic, there are grumpy main characters, unlikely heroes, and dreamers who can pull their nightmares from their mind. I feel like I can't sell this enough, so I'm just gonna stop here and say I'm very excited for it. I trust her completely, I am in good hands, and I am looking forward to the May 18th release date. Finally, we're in June, which is our halfway point for the year, and all I'm going to be talking about in this video. Hopefully I'll have a later half of 2021 anticipated reads video once I know what the heck is coming out in the second half of the year, but I can't plan that far ahead. My brain will not go that far ahead. So for June, on June 5th, we have Blood Like Magic. It is a fantasy that takes place in a modern setting and follows a witch who must sacrifice her first love in order to save her family. However, she has never been in love and so must journey out to try and find her first love in order to kill them. It sounds really interesting, and I've really been digging how many witchy books I have been able to find this year. If you haven't noticed, my entire anticipated release list has been very witch heavy, and that is purposeful. I am very excited to read more witchy books, and they can be really hit or miss for me, but when they hit hard, and I think I'm willing to take the risk in order to do that, and I don't feel like there's much risk involved in this one because it sounds fantastic. This next book book, the reason why it caught my attention is because the dynamic between the characters and the co-authors. I have Sisters of the Snake by Sasha and Serena Nanua. This is a really interesting concept because the main characters are twins, one growing up in the elite, the other growing up on the streets. But the thing that makes this different is I have never read a book where the main characters were twins and so were the authors. So the two co-authors are also twins, writing from a twin's perspective, and I really love that entire concept. I don't think I've ever read twins in a book that had twins writing the book together. I love that so much that I'm very excited for it immediately. The most I know about this book is that because their worlds are so different, when they decide to switch places, havoc ensues, and there's quite a bit of political intrigue, it seems, that plays out as well. So it sounds really amazing, and that is my last release of this half of the year, coming out on June 15th. And with that, my video is over. I would love to know what book you are most anticipating, or if you have read any of the books by these authors, as most of these authors are either favorites of mine or completely unfamiliar to me. So leave your comments down below, and I hope you're enjoying the sun or more stars wherever you are. And until next time, bye! That I don't know very... The camera keeps dying. And that is A Vow So Bold and Deadly? A Vow So... Oh no. A Curse So Fierce and Broken? No. A Curse So Dark and Lonely. Help! Anything newly released? Noodle released. Okay. This is the second in the spin-off Grisha verse world. Wow, there's gotta be a better way to say that. So they're trying to take down a mutual an enemy. How do you accidentally say anemone instead of enemy? Like, that's the thing. It's hard to say anemone. Now I can say anemone perfectly, but I can't say enemy. Why? Why would I be able to say the harder word? Enemy. They're taking down a mutual enemy. Enemy. What is happening to me?